Welcome to the Alchemy of Success podcast with Dr. Michael Leslie, designed to give smart, ambitious 9-to-5ers the knowledge, insights, and tools they need to live their best life. Let's get started.
Good evening and welcome to our podcast, The Alchemy of Success. I'm Dr. Michael Leslie. Tonight we'll be exploring the vicissitudes, the challenges to becoming an expatriate, living in another country. And in particular, we'll have a focus on Latin America and more specifically, Colombia. Our guest tonight is RJ Mood, who is the owner, curator, and mentor of Black Expat Life in Colombia. And we're going to listen to an introduction to RJ Mood, and then we'll proceed with our interview for this evening. RJ Mood is a seasoned travel curator, expert mentor, and founder of Black Expat Life in Colombia, a YouTube platform dedicated to real conversations about the Black experience abroad. Originally from Philadelphia, RJ left behind the hustle of American life to build a more intentional and liberated lifestyle in Medellín, Colombia. His journey is now a blueprint for other travelers seeking freedom, community, and purpose outside of the United States. With over 7 years of experience in travel planning, group tours, and relocation coaching, RJ helps clients make the leap from dreaming to doing. Through Mood Travel Colombia, he offers affordable relocation tours, virtual conferences, and expert resources that simplify the process of moving to Colombia. His work is rooted in cultural reconnection, economic empowerment, and mental wellness for the African diaspora. RJ is also the visionary host behind the travel series Roots and Routes podcast, where he unpacks the emotional, cultural, and logistical layers of Black international living. Whether guiding group tours or sharing honest conversations online, RJ is committed to creating spaces where Black travelers feel seen, supported, and inspired to design their own version of freedom abroad. So RJ, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So I want to start off, asking you about how you actually got into this line of work, so to speak. What motivated you to take this on, and maybe tell us a little bit about how you actually got started.
Yeah, no worries. I feel like the beginning is always good when speaking about this because I was actually invited here back in 2017 by a girl I went to college with. She is Colombian and said, "Hey, this was a time where Colombia wasn't necessarily on every traveler's radar, but I was given almost a red carpet treatment into Colombia at a time where there weren't a lot of Americans coming." I say all of that to say the beginning started at a very good time in my life where I was open to see what the world had for me. And immediately when I landed in Colombia, it was something that it almost took over me a little bit. That was the first time I was greeted with "Tu eres mi color," you are my color, and to be a Black man coming to a Spanish-speaking country, not speaking much Spanish at the time, it was eye-opening. So I ventured back here, and that actually was my second time here. Was the start of my travel business. It was the most unique thing because a lot of people ask, "Well, how'd you get started?" I had such a great time, pictures and videos, and just talking about it. So many people wanted to come with me, and the next time I came, I went. I took two people, but 4 months after that, I actually went and took 15 people to Carnival, and it was absolutely amazing. So I jumped in head first with not only what Colombia had to offer me, but trying to do my best in showcasing to others what Colombia could offer them. And considering, last year and looking at relocating, I had been conversing with people over the years, as they had continuously seen me come to Colombia, bring other people, but I knew that there was going to be a crossroads. That crossroads was going to put people in a scenario similar to the pandemic, where everybody in the United States, at least, this wasn't global, but everybody in the United States, at least, was going to be at a crossroads. Were they okay with staying on the path with what potentially the United States offered with the two candidates? Or could it go a way that they did not like? And what would be their next mission? And what would that look like? So I started preparing. I knew there was a question mark of maybe this happens, but I knew that I had developed the resources over the years of coming here. After moving here in 2023, I was able to continuously piece together the resources that I and so many others did not have. So that way, as many people were positioned in these crossroads, they were able to go and make the leap out of the United States should they choose, and make it in a way where they'd have a higher probability than so many more people that had come before them, maybe just even a year or 2 years ago. So, my journey through Colombia, from group travel to now helping others be able to come if that is where they're looking to go and come the right way, both moving abroad and to Colombia. That is where our journey has led us today, and I'm very happy to be here.
Seems that you fell in love with Colombia, and I wanted to know what are some of the aspects of the culture of Colombia that attracted you and that made you not only want to stay but develop a business around having people come to Colombia, especially Afro Americans.
Well, coming from Philadelphia originally, went to school in Atlanta, and then spent a lot of time, almost a decade, in South Florida, traveling both in those places as far as living, and then traveling the United States. One thing that I started to see was a lack of community, and it wasn't something that I was dreaming of and never had any privy to. I was in a scenario where community was something that I grew up with, grew up in a neighborhood where people looked out for each other, people cared for each other. But what I started to see, American capitalism was giving you a holiday for everything. My favorite and unfavorite holiday is President's Day. All of the President's Day sales we have and a reason to spend something, and we're not seeing the same energy put into community, which is where a lot of the problems lie and where a lot of Americans are looking to leave. So when coming to Colombia and seeing a 180 approach to community, to family, to people wanting to do better together, um, that has been in my soul since I was a child, and it got re-sparked coming back here to Colombia.
Well, that's fascinating because all of us at some level are looking to replicate whatever was pleasing, comfortable, made us feel good in our life. Since sometimes, as you said, we can't find it where we are. So this leads me to a question about when you come from another culture to one like this one. As you said, one of the things that's emphasized here is community, family, less individualism that we have in the United States.
Mhm.
What is it that makes it possible in no, I will ask it this way. What have you seen in people who want to rediscover this community but bring their own, I would call baggage, cultural baggage from the US here? How is it that they are able to adjust, or how is it that you help them to adjust to this different culture?
Bringing your cultural baggage, your cultural is emotional baggage as well. That your baggage is cultural, emotional, it's financial. It's both financial because you come from potentially um, finances getting tight there, and then now all of a sudden your finances could become flipped, and now you're all of a sudden able to afford things, but the baggage of not even being able to have life experience with, oh, now everything costs so little. A lot of people come here with different kinds of baggage, multi-layered, that what we try to do is meet you exactly where you are. Doing so gives you the ability before you even go to leave. So many people are worried about where people are possibly going on their expatriate immigrant journey, whatever potential term people may want to put on it. But it's the intention and the education behind it. So telling people in America, yes, you have stuff, you have things. And America told you and sold you that that was going to lead you to happiness. However, you are here and you are considering to leave. So maybe what they've sold you is not true. Secondarily, you also have to look at what you are willing to give up as far as stuff and things to receive that has no monetary value. You can't go into any store and buy it. You really have to have a conversation with yourself. And the conversations that we do our best to have on our platform are designed to snap you out, because it's kind of like a trance that everybody's in with going to work every day, and the holidays are coming, so I need to work more to buy more, and buying more stuff and buying more things, and not realizing that these things are just clutter in our life, and we have no substance of community, family, love with our both loved ones, our neighbors. Like, these things are so important to just being humans. It makes us different between the animal and the human. And there's so many things in animal life that is just like we're not even doing that anymore, guys.
Well, let's carry that a little further. So there are differences, as you said, in how people express community. I and you mentioned, or I overheard you mentioning a little earlier, how here, for example, if you go or traveling, the entire family comes to accompany to the airport or whatever conveyance you're using to see
Yeah.
you off, right? To make sure you're not really traveling alone. You kind of
Mhm.
have them in your back pocket in some way.
Mhm.
And so, but people who are not used to that might find it a bit strange. For example, I've heard other people talk about the tremendous influence that family has here in your own personal relationship, your maybe if your partner or your intimate relationship, that there's family of the other person or the person you're involved with is also involved in your relationship. So it might be also a bit uncomfortable for the person coming from a nuclear family type of setup that we usually have in the United States. So the question is what are some of the ways that these differences are can be addressed? And I know you do this work on your platform, but tell us about some of the counsel that you give to people who are wanting to make a move to Latin America. What can they do? What can they give up? How can they modify their outlook, their behavior, their perspectives?
Well, as I said, we try to tell them that the stuff and things and the value that they've put on it is of no value at all. That tries to, at least, like I mentioned, wake them up a little bit. The wake up process is a part of the biggest thing that we do here, because you could still move abroad and still be asleep, like, in regards to understanding, like, a conversation of how do you get in, like, involved with the community. Now, I think what you were talking about a little bit maybe was more so like a dating lifestyle. I'm not in a dating scenario. However, what I will tell you is, in even building community, I'm one of the admins of the Black in Medellín chat that's out here. It's over 300 strong of people that live here full time as well as are traveling. But there are so many different people in here. And what I always tell people is, um, you it's okay to be an introvert. However, you may need to be a different kind of introvert in a place like Colombia or a place abroad. And you may be an extrovert in America, but you may need to be a different kind of extrovert because you're not necessarily certain what the cadence of Colombia are. Everybody in America, especially people that haven't left yet, are programmed, like dialed in to the energy, to the pace of where they're from, and what they've been exposed to in the United States. However, even those places aren't Colombia, aren't Ecuador, aren't any of these places abroad. So the conversations that we have, as well as nurturing and providing opportunities for people in the chats once they get here to come out, low pressure scenarios. There are so many events that go on. I think there was a adult pool party day. I think like a work ditch day. Like 40 people went to like a beautiful a beautiful finca out here that had a pool and they had like these are things that people set up. They went horseback riding 2 weeks ago. They've done space tournaments, and those are things just in the expat community. Never mind the local community that has so many different things here in Medellin, at least. Now, that is one thing that I don't think people know because so many people are tuned in to saying, okay, well, I saw Leslie and I saw RJ Mood, and they said come to Colombia. That is not what we said. What you'll hear on this podcast and this conversation tonight is about the not only the intention but the education, the resources that yes I do provide, but you may not be looking to come to Colombia. You need to understand how to get involved with that community because the community is existing without you. It's not the community fitting around who some people make looking to make the community fit around them. And that is a spirit that a lot of people, and we try our best, help them come here with humbleness and gracefulness that they're allowed in the community and to be a part of it.
Part of being able to integrate into a community, to adjust to a new community, and actually to be a part of that community, obviously is also linguistic. Now, I know that you speak Spanish, and I know that I've met at least a couple of other Afro Americans who speak Spanish. And I know that I've also met people who don't, right? And they're here and they're living. Talk to us about the how having the language ability, being able to interact, makes for a different experience here. And then, secondly, if you would, talk about how one can deal with being monolingual if one decides to make the shift to Colombia or to another Latin American country where that's Spanish speaking.
Yeah, no words. Can you repeat the first question? Because I definitely want to make certain that was a good one.
Yeah. So I was talking about the role of language in adjusting to a new community, and not having that language, or having it even, the uh, the the nuances of how that impacts your ability to integrate, to adjust, to become a part of.
Yeah, that is very good question because a lot of people are looking at places. Do they speak English? Some places. But here in Colombia, I will tell you, you are with the people. Some places like Cartagena, there may be more English speakers. Um, I will tell you that even though speaking Spanish, I am not fluent. I work every day to try and get better, continuously have conversations. But you mentioned even coming here with pre-given Spanish. Depends on what kind of Spanish do you have. Do you have book Spanish? Do you have Puerto Rican Spanish? Do you have Dominican Spanish? What kind of Spanish do you have? Because words are not the same depending on where you go in Latam and the Caribbean. It varies completely. You may be asking for a drink and may be asking actually for somebody to shoot you. Those are the unique ways to get around these words. So you will always be learning. So if you are not in the scenario of knowing, get ready. I tell people it's so many adults are in a scenario where I graduated in 2009 from college. So quite some time ago, but not too long ago. However, that is probably the last time I sat in a classroom setting. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go to a Spanish class, but it is going to be one of the best things for you if you are considering moving to a Spanish speaking country. One, safety. Safety is important. Safety is important. Learn emergency numbers. 911 is not the worldwide emergency number. There is a number in Colombia and there may be other places, there may be a different number. However, at least knowing basic Spanish to be able to say, hey, I'm having an emergency. I am allergic to peanuts. I need to know and ask in restaurants, does this have peanuts in it? Because it could be the difference between life and death. Some people may not have food allergies and may not be faced with those, but you'd be surprised the same people that have peanut allergies still travel abroad without basic Spanish. Now, you have a phone in your hand. Most of the days, the phone is directly in your hand, like a lot of the day. So, there are different apps that you can utilize. One of my favorite is Google Keyboard. That gives you the ability to have Google Translate directly into WhatsApp, so you don't have to go out. Now, I think the phones now, depending on what phone you may have, might have the ability to translate the conversation. However, when I first started coming to Colombia, that wasn't there. I finally found something, but these things were all important. I had to lower my resistance because coming from America, we're taught America's number one. Everywhere else is, number two and on down. Well, America doesn't realize, and Americans, that the world goes on without them. So, learning Spanish when you are in a Spanish speaking country, that is very important to you. You cannot expect everywhere to speak English. You do not have to come over here fluent or knowing everything, but basic things. Good morning. How are you? Where is the bathroom? I need help. Those things are the difference between life and death, and those phrases are things where if the majority of people do not speak your language, whether Colombia or elsewhere, you need to at least know, write them down. We try to do our best, whether, like I said, Colombia or somewhere else. We need to do what we can to create conscious and educated travelers. There is no system in America that says this is how your passport works. This is how you travel with travel etiquette. That's why we had to come up with this stuff, because we weren't getting this information. And I just got tired of seeing people have a bad time because they weren't educated on the language. Um, but having your drawbridge low, you'd be surprised how many people have lived here for a year and watch me order in a restaurant and they're like, wow, you really got this down. And I'm like, I ordered water and the entree that was available. I did not have a complex conversation at all. But so many people have their drawbridge of learning and adapting the culture up. They're not giving themselves the opportunity to do so.
Talk to us a little bit about what you provide through your agency, Mood Travel, and how that serves people who have some of the challenges. Maybe they have a linguistic challenge, or maybe they have the cultural expectation challenge. Maybe they simply might have a fear
Hmm.
about being in a country outside of their own. I mean, there's so much fear generated about our own media about everything that's not in the United States. Colombia is full of I don't know, narcotraficantes or people who are trying to steal or rob you. What are the kinds of things that you equip them with through your own agency so that they can have a great time in Colombia and see it as a possibility for themselves, either for continuing to visit or perhaps long-term stay?
Yeah, no worries. We kind of cover two sides, because I know there's some people that are ready to go. They're ready to leave. They're ready to move to Colombia. So we've got those covered. And we've got the other side of people that are looking to travel to Colombia and looking to just travel, period, like, and understand where to go, what to do. Uh, the travel and the vacation side of what we present gives people the opportunity to, one, create a trip with people that know how to create an itinerary, or two, come with the group trip of travelers that are like-minded, that where all of our itineraries for group trips are designed around showing the best food, fun, history, and culture. Now, that's not just Colombia. We take these trips and we go all over Medellin, Cartagena, San Andres, as well as other places that are in the Caribbean and the world, that give you the opportunity to say, okay, I know even if I go by myself, there are going to be people that are there that are like-minded, and the itinerary is designed around showing me something that is not just what you would see on TikTok. We're not just in clubs popping bottles. No, we're with people that are telling us stories, and being able to reconnect some question marks that we may have had about a place, or learn something new, eat some new food. So that is one side. Whereas the focus on Colombia and the relocation, a lot of people ask, what is a relocation tour? It's so foreign, but it should be the most a step when looking to move abroad. Because when you go to move abroad, so many people are saying, okay, well, I want to go to Colombia. Well, Colombia is a country. There are many cities in Colombia. But because so many people are ready to leave, they're willing to take microwaved and canned information, 1 minute of this is the best clubs in Colombia, and that is where how they're deciding where to go, and not realizing you need real resources in real estate. You need real resources in immigration. How long can I stay? How do I get a visa to stay? What is the process for that? Is it in a language that I read, or is it in a language that is completely different? All of these things, even something as far as what does a neighborhood look like? I mentioned even narrowing down from Colombia to a city. Here in Medellin, the neighborhoods are all completely different, depending on if you have a family, if you have children, if you are single, if you're a single guy, a single woman. What does that look like for you and your comfortability? The relocation tours are designed to do that, and the conversations we have before people go on, before they go and get into the airport, to let people know that we're real, because these conversations aren't canned or housed in a lot of places on the internet. There are not a lot of people having genuine conversations about where are you today, and what could your life look like if you leave. But let's back up before you leave. Let's get ready. Let's set the mood. Let's set the tone of where you need to be before you get on the other side of the TSA. So a lot of what we do is a comprehensive scenario for both vacationers as well as people looking to leave. But it's all rooted in a community, and it's all rooted in us and doing my best to try to give back to the community.
We're going to take a break and we'll be back in a few minutes. And I want you to, for those of you who are just arriving to this podcast, we're interviewing RJ Mood, who is the CEO of the Mood Travel Club that assists people in getting to know Colombia. And if they like Colombia, getting them an opportunity to make the transition to living in Colombia. So we'll be back in just a minute. RJ Mood is a seasoned travel curator, expert mentor, and founder of Black Expat Life in Colombia, a YouTube platform dedicated to real conversations about the Black experience abroad. Originally from Philadelphia, RJ left behind the hustle of American life to build a more intentional and liberated lifestyle in Medellín, Colombia. His journey is now a blueprint for other travelers seeking freedom, community, and purpose outside of the United States. With over 7 years of experience in travel planning, group tours, and relocation coaching, RJ helps clients make the leap from dreaming to doing. Through Mood Travel Colombia, he offers affordable relocation tours, virtual conferences, and expert resources that simplify the process of moving to Colombia. His work is rooted in cultural reconnection, economic empowerment, and mental wellness for the African diaspora. RJ is also the visionary host behind the travel series Roots and Routes podcast, where he unpacks the emotional, cultural, and logistical layers of Black international living. Whether guiding group tours or sharing honest conversations online, RJ is committed to creating spaces where Black travelers feel seen, supported, and inspired to design their own version of freedom abroad.
I cannot hear.
Here we go. The second part of this evening, RJ, I'd like to delve into something that has been challenging for me personally, and I would think for a lot of people when they do travel abroad, or especially if they decide to stay, and that's this issue of intercultural relationships. So sometimes the person that you decide to live with, I have a partner now here, and we sometimes have very serious misunderstandings, I would say. Some of them are linguistic, as you alluded to earlier, but some of them I think are in terms of cultural expectations. So maybe you've had some experience with this. I believe yourself. Are you in a cross cultural marriage?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
No,
okay.
but I have a lot of friends that are here, like platonic friends. That things are definitely different, both in a good way and then some ways have been challenging. If you want to explore that,
Yeah, some of the challenges that people face, and if you could speak to what you observed and
Mhm.
what the possibilities are for people who want to take that on, because I just have a feeling that some people do come to Colombia seeking a mate,
Yeah,
and run into these challenges. So, could you speak to what you've observed?
yeah, no worries at all. I would say with friends, I did not know, and I tell people a lot of times, in America, you aren't afforded the privileges that America gives you, depending on what hand you were dealt, until you go to leave. And then you're faced with it directly. So I didn't come from, a family with a lot of stuff and things and money, and that wasn't what my family was made of. They were made of, solid substance and things. But coming abroad, even all the way back in 2017, you would be surprised how far 30 to 40,000 USD goes that does not go that far in the United States. So one of the things that I would say that was challenging for me at first, especially fresh into Colombia from America, was because my dollar went so far, the expectations for me to spend my dollar went a little far with some of the initial relationships that I had, which at first was difficult to navigate. But as I got further into relationships with people, I mean, a no is just a no, but more so, I understand that it wasn't a lot of it, especially the friends and the people. Like at this point, I've known people 8+ years. I've seen 12-year-olds become grown men, and what I see here is that it's not from a they're trying to take you on a ride. Now, some people will take you on a ride, but what I had to learn with some of the friendships that I have was it's really about us being as close to or as in a family as we can, whether seeing how families operate, as well as seeing how once you are really friends with somebody, they'll invite you to the house, they'll cook for you. Big house, little house, doesn't matter. They just want to spend time with you. And resources are things that we're taught in America to really, really covet. You could be from a big family, but if you called your family, you've got 5 brothers and 5 sisters, you're the 11th child. Could the 11th child call their family and say, hey, we should just go and stay on a property instead of paying 11 mortgages? We could just pay one, and we just all live. The likelihood of an American family that was raised in the city, even getting all the way to 11 kids, or even cut that in half and 5 and you're their sixth one, is the likelihood of that kind of cooperative economics that doesn't happen. So was it initially challenging? Yes, but I realized it was once you navigate the financial portions, there's so many more things that you're going to get access to, that people are willing to share with you: language, culture, customs, holidays, living abroad, being able to go and spend holidays with people. That's something that means something, and it oftentimes doesn't come with a dollar amount, but we have so much privilege and so much abundance that we don't even really get to understand or cash in on living in the United States. And it's our duty when you get to a place, that is how you are becoming a smart traveler. You're understanding the culture and the customs and doing what the locals are doing.
Yeah. So there's a very well known curve in intercultural relationships. It's sometimes it's described as an S curve. Others describe it as a W curve or a U curve. There's different ways of talking about it, but it says basically, you come to a place, you're very enthusiastic about it. It's different. It's welcoming. Maybe you're even escaping some of the stresses of living in contemporary United States, where there seems to be a lot of division nowadays. And so you come to what appears to be a paradise, right? The
Hmm.
weather's good. The people are, for the most part, welcoming, sometimes even beautiful. And the food is great. right? And there's as we've been talking about this, it's you get a different set of satisfactions from living here that you couldn't access in the U.S. But where I'm going with this is when you come you're enthusiastic, then you realize, well, things maybe don't work as well as you think they should. Like maybe, there's not as much trash pickup, or maybe, well, you're having trouble that we spoke earlier about with the language. You can't communicate, but you really need things that you need to get solved don't get solved. Or maybe there's the time delay. It takes longer to get things done than
Uh-huh.
used to. So there's these stressors that have you feel that take you the pleasure out of it, and you find yourself sort of depressed, some people would say, but at least you don't feel as happy as you did when you started. And then you learn about the culture and you learn how to adapt the things that you've been talking about. You get invited to people's homes, and perhaps even you do learn some of Spanish so you can communicate. And then you learn things actually do get done. They just don't get done on your time frame. So you start coming out of your depression to not maybe as enthusiastic as you were at the beginning, but you are at least you're reasonably happy with the choice that you made. So the question is this: what are the kinds of things that one can do, or that you found it that you recommend, or that you observed that others have done, in order to get through this stage, if you were to navigate the up and the down, so they can get back to a place where they don't want to say, oh, I think I made a mistake, I'm going back, I want to go back to the US. How do you help them acclimatize?
Yeah, that is a great question. So, a lot of the pre work we do will give you some of the things that you need when faced with these challenges when living abroad. So one of the things that I tell people to do, because it's one of the things my father told me when I was a kid, and I always just say, "Why do you write everything down? You've got cut my hair, go to the barber shop. You've got make breakfast." He had everything written down because it gave him a to-do list for the next day. Now nobody has to be that meticulous, but when I tell people, I ask people to ask themselves, why are they moving abroad? I tell them to go write it down and to visualize it, to visualize the reasons, because once again, we're in trances, we're living in the United States. So when you visualize it and you're writing it down, you're actually going on paper and seeing just how much stuff that you are actually upset with. That you would say, hey, if I could change this, this is what I would want to do. A lot of people have not done that exercise. So anybody that listens will have those things. And also the other side. Yes, it's negative. Like, okay, I'm ready to leave because I'm over it. It's killing me. The high prices of gas, groceries, the political situation. Like, write it down, but also know what you are looking for. You need to have a clear understanding of what you are looking for and write that down too. One, that'll help you narrow down where you're going to end up going if you're honest with yourself. But two, when faced with a scenario of, well, I'm overwhelmed with this and I'm overwhelmed with this, go back to what you wrote down. Now you're at the crossroads again in consideration of what all of these things that you wrote down versus what you may be experiencing here. Write it down again. Because a lot, like I said, we're not programmed like this. We don't have the time. Everything you mentioned pace earlier. Pace here it's a lot slower pace. Nobody is moving on American people's time. It's Colombia. However, that depends where you go, it might be different. But when you are putting in these things, and I'm a person that is very intentional and deliberate about what it is that I do. So when I tell people, well, what's my best recommendation? Write it down. Make sure and you know. That way, when you're faced with, well, I'm really overwhelmed with my new life in Colombia, and I don't really know the language that well, and I haven't met any friends. Well, I settled on Colombia, and these were all the pros in Colombia, the things that we're looking for. Now let's look up with the pros and on the cons and what it is that I have, and let me take a litmus test of what I have on the right hand side, which is my life abroad, versus what I left on the left. A lot of people aren't willing to actually go and do the research and do the leg work. Your work, more work that's not already being done. They're like, man, I already got enough work. You're trying to give me more things to do, but this is your maybe last chance to make a turn in your life that can actually change your life for the better. And the rest of your life, the whole trajectory look different. So I just challenge a lot of people to write it down because it's going to come. But you need to know why you left, why you came to where you came. And if it doesn't still align, be brave enough to one, either go back or two, reshuffle the cards and see where it's next with the things and tools that you've learned from your first move.
Have the people now? Let's talk about the people that you know who have made that decision. They're here, um, and you mentioned there's a group of expats, 300 strong or more in Black expats, 300 strong or more in Medellin alone. Um, can you give us, for people who are will see this podcast later, can you give us some idea of what it's like to be an Afro descendant or an African American living in Colombia? What is it that's distinctive compared to, for example, um, first living in some other Latin American country? I mean, what's special about Colombia? Because I'll tell you, I lived 7 years in Mexico, and Colombia is not like Mexico in many ways, right? And I think I've appreciated some aspects of living here that I'd like you to talk about in terms of your own experience.
Yeah.
Why Colombia? Why not some other Latin American country? What's particularly attractive, or might be particularly attractive, to Afro descendants who come here?
Well, the first thing, well, to get to people when they go to start looking of where to go, some people sell themselves on, I want to live in a beach town. Maybe a vacation you does, but maybe real life you, Tuesday you, a second Tuesday of the month, you just at a home. Beach life is really specific. So when it comes to Medellin, it was a question mark for me. Uh, but realistically, what happens in Medellin is people get stuck, and not in a bad way. People come here and, like myself, I was to be here for 3 months. I signed up for 3 months and was like, cool, gonna go from South Florida, check Medellin out. Then I'm headed to Playa del Carmen. That was my plan. Playa del Carmen hasn't seen me in the thought process of living in 2 years, and honestly has never in the thought process of living because I got stuck. And I got stuck because it was it was a time when I was a kid and growing up in Philadelphia, I used to visit New York. But the one thing that always stuck out with me is I didn't really want to be somewhere that was cold. And as a kid, I said, there was a place that reminded me of New York City that had great weather. That might be the best place in the world for me. And I said this as a kid, never with no passport or anything. So when I touched down in Medellin and saw the beauty from the airport, never mind once I got into the city and realized that the city was separated into different neighborhoods, similar to a, um, New York City. Different neighborhoods where everything's 15 minutes walking. You know, things were way cheaper than what I was used to paying even when I was going to Cartagena. Cartagena is the most expensive city in Colombia. So going to Medellin, it was 30% cheaper than that. So coming from America, that was one of the things. Two, there was already an Afro expat community waiting. Now it shifted, and the group that I mentioned, it was not around. We created that group, me and a number of other expats. However, um, there was already a community here. There were people that were doing stuff that I was interested in. I moved here. I'll be 38 this year, Lord willing. Moved here when I was 36 years old. There were people in my age range from 25 to 50 and 50 plus, honestly, because they were the kind of people that, weren't retired or maybe semi-retired, but they were active people. The community was doing things with each other. There was so much to do in this city. That is why when looking at a beach town, so many of us have either going came to Medellin and said, "Oh, I'm probably not going to go there." Or I've met so many people that have come to Medellin for the first time from a Mexico, and it's like there is so much to do here, and there are so many of us from people from America. And the second most unique thing that I love, there's a group down here called Origin and Culture. Got to shout out to them. They are an Afro-Colombian group that does a lot of events from the Black Joy Parade. They have a Black on Black party next, I think it's the 17th. But they do a lot of things from English Club, which brings Afro-Colombians and Afro-expats into the room, helping them learn English, speaking about topics. Playing games, dancing. They play bingo with the same fervor that we play spades. So there's so many different opportunities to see the Afro-Colombian community that has come from the coast and now has a vibrant community down here. And the Afro-expat community that is abundant, both living here full time as well as consistently traveling and finding us on the internet and getting tapped in with the resources and the things that we're doing, and trying to at least cultivate to allow to happen in this community that we've worked together to put together.
For you touched on the people who might have more likelihood of being able to settle, perhaps they're because they're retiring or because they figured out some way to live remotely and to work remotely. What percentage of that community that you're speaking about are actually working from Medellin or from Colombia?
A
Is that
large percentage, like I would say 60. I would say 60 to 70%. Now, the remaining would be that are here, like full time. I would say they're probably retired, but retirement looks different now. There are such it's a huge expat community down here of veterans, and there are a lot of soldiers, former United States soldiers that 30, 40 years old that are retired and living here with their families or by themselves. So retired doesn't necessarily look like what it has been, has looked like in the past.
great? So, can you tell us, again, coming back to the attractions for Afro descendants, can you tell us something about the character of the different parts of Colombia that might make them more attractive to some people and less attractive to others? I know you mentioned some people only think beach, but what are some of the characteristics of these other cities? Cali, for example, I know that people like myself even live in small towns like Santa Elena
Yeah.
in Valle de Cauca. But what are some of the attractions of the different parts of Colombia from that perspective?
Um, I think those places provide an even more. You're going to get authentic Colombia because coming so many people from the United States are used to like canned experiences on resorts. So I've been to Jamaica and DR, but we've been on a resort. Whereas sometimes coming to Colombia may be the first time that you are with the people. So Cartagena and Medellin, I would say from a person's first visit to Colombia, that's usually the most softest landings for you. But once you can get, I feel like get used to, or at least are open to going. The places like Cali, beautiful. San Andres is one of my favorite places. It's San Andres is the island of seven blues. It is one of the only places in the world, well, in Colombia, where the Afro Colombians natively speak English. And it's the only other place in the Caribbean that has rondon as a cultural dish because of the history and everything else. So there are so many cities where Cartagena, when I want to go to a beach, I go to the island of Seven Blues. I don't relatively recommend myself from living here to go to these places. And you mentioned Santa Elena. We have friends that live in other places in Colombia, but that is the beauty of Colombia. Colombia has the Green Mountains, it has snow-capped mountains, it has the desert, it has the beach, it has literally every terrain, and the beauty of it. People are always saying, you're always going and taking people to Colombia and the different trips to Colombia, and I'm like, you don't understand that Colombia is the most wrapped up in a beautiful bow kind of place, and there are so many different cities. They all have different foods, they all have different music, they all have different cultural events and festivals that they have that are only at the time of the year. So to be able to go to these particular places, yes, we're going to bring you on the soft landings of probably Cartagena and Medellin for the first time. But as you continue to travel with us and see these opportunities that we put together, you'll see that there's so much beauty in Colombia that could keep you here traveling for so long before you would even have to go to another country.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap. I've been educated by this conversation with you in many ways. One of them is seeing ways of coping with cultural transition, and the other is this openness to uh, or to discovering more of Colombia than I've actually had a chance to see. I remember visiting Bogota and Cartagena, Santa Marta, Cali, and then some of the smaller cities like Popoyan and Santa Elena, right? But what you've communicated today is that there's a wealth of opportunities to not only travel but also to discover oneself as, and to reinvent oneself, right, as a human being, right, and particularly that aspect of recreating community again, which I think you're right. Many of us have lost contact with because of the way we grew up and the way life seems to go in the U.S. nowadays. So I want to invite you to just, if you would, share something that's close to your heart about your Colombian experience that you probably don't often share with commercially, right? So give us something about yourself that Colombia has done for you, or let me use a different word, that you discovered within yourself as a result of being in Colombia that was surprising to you, that you did not expect.
Well, this is something that I realized, but it is a challenge for anybody that's watching this, as well as you, Dr. Leslie. Um, I didn't realize until I got settled that I didn't really, I hadn't had in a while time to be me. My dad used to always say, when I look in the mirror, I look and see the little boy that I was. But the time to be you, before you were Dr. Leslie and you were just Mike, before, like back when you were able to be you, and everybody that is watching this, because I didn't realize that I hadn't really had any time to be myself. I ask people, well, what hobbies do you have? I don't have time to even do my hobbies. Or you having time to remember that you used to have hobbies, because America doesn't really give us the time to be ourselves. So when I came to Colombia, I had to have like a pause moment. But if my pause moment was on one isolated to myself, but then I realized, like, I started asking this on the podcast. When is the last time that you have been able to be you? And I realized that I didn't really like the answer to that because I didn't have an answer. So Colombia allowed me to be able to stop and allowed me to be able to realize that my life was not meant to be a worker, or a worker in a machine where that was who I was. Um, My name is RJ. My name is Roger Lacef Jr. That means something, and I should remember that before thinking of what my hat is when I go to a job. So that is what I realized, that I don't necessarily go into the me side too much, but that prompted the question that I had been asking, which is, when's the last time that you were able to do what you would like to do, a hobby? Take time to that has nothing to do with making money, has nothing to do with working, something that puts a joy on yourself, and everybody else in the room would say you were weird, but you're just sitting there just happy. And then do that. Be honest with yourself, but then find a time to do that. And hopefully moving abroad gives you a little bit of time to be able to catch up on who you are as a person.
Well, again, it's been a delight, RJ, mood to be with you. Thank you for sharing yourself with us, and let people know again where they can find you.
Yes, I make it very easy. You can go to Mood Travel Club. That's MOOD Travel Club. That is both .com and moodtravelcolumbia.com. Those are where our group trips as well as our relocation tours. If you guys are like conversations like this, as well as things that can give you the real information on relocating to Colombia, we have our virtual conference coming up May 17th through the 18th from 12 to 3 Central Time. We're talking real estate, immigration, healthcare. I have parents with children that will be able to give you insight on that. We also have coaches for both expats as well as families. So we are doing our best to bring every resource that you need virtually before you even have to hit the airport. I appreciate you, Dr. Leslie, for reaching out and having me on your platform. I look forward to having another conversation with you for in the future because good for us, but concerning for America, they're going to continuously be inundated with things that may make them want to get off the couch and out of America. So we probably have plenty to talk about from here.
I think we do have plenty to talk about, and I'll look forward to that conversation.
I
You've been
appreciate
listening to The Alchemy of Success. I'm Dr. Michael Leslie. I've been here tonight with RJ Mood. We wish you a good night, and we'll see you again next week at 7 p.m. Eastern. Good night.
Thank you for watching the Alchemy of Success podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next week.